You don't need a perfect business plan to succeed. What if I told you that some of the biggest companies in the world didn't start with a perfect business plan? They started small. They experimented. They made mistakes. And most importantly, they adapted. Think about Starbucks. Today, Starbucks is one of the most recognizable coffee companies in the world. But it didn't begin as a global empire. It started as a small coffee shop selling coffee beans and equipment. The company changed significantly over time, eventually focusing on the coffeehouse experience that we know today. And that's the first lesson. You don't need to know exactly how your business will look 10 years from now. You need to know where you want to go, and be willing to change how you get there. Because sometimes, the biggest mistake an entrepreneur can make is becoming too attached to their original plan. Start small. A lot of people think starting a business means creating the perfect product, writing a 50-page business plan, getting investors, building a huge website, and then launching. But in reality, you can learn more from actually doing something than you can from planning forever. FedEx is a great example. The concept behind FedEx came from Frederick Smith's idea of creating a system specifically designed for fast, reliable delivery of packages. Smith famously developed the concept while he was a student at Yale. The idea eventually became Federal Express. But the important part isn't that he had everything figured out from the beginning. He didn't. The business had to evolve. It had to respond to customers, technology, competition, regulations, and countless problems that couldn't have been predicted in advance. And that's what makes entrepreneurship different from simply following instructions. You're operating in an environment you can't completely predict. So instead of trying to predict everything, you have to learn how to adapt. Have a destination, not a perfect roadmap. Now, there's an important distinction here. Being flexible does not mean having no plan. You should still have a clear goal. Imagine you're driving somewhere you've never been before. You know the destination. But along the way, you run into construction. A road is closed. You miss a turn. Your GPS gives you a new route. Would you just give up because your original route didn't work? Of course not. You change the route. But you keep the destination. Business works the same way. Your goal is the destination. Your strategy is the route. And your route can change. Maybe you launch a product and nobody wants it. That doesn't necessarily mean the entire business idea is bad. Maybe the price is wrong. Maybe the audience is wrong. Maybe the product solves the wrong problem. Maybe your marketing is terrible. Instead of immediately quitting, you can test, learn, and adjust. That's one of the most powerful advantages a small business has. Test. Learn. Adjust. When you're small, you can move quickly. You can experiment. You can change your product. You can talk directly to customers. You can test different ideas. And if something doesn't work, you can change it. Think about it like a scientist. A scientist doesn't run one experiment and assume they know everything. They test something. They collect information. They learn. Then they change the next experiment. Entrepreneurs can do the same thing. Test, learn, adjust. Repeat. The faster you can go through this cycle, the faster you can improve. And this leads to another important idea. Your first idea doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be good enough to start learning. Protect your idea by moving faster. Now, what if you're worried about someone stealing your idea? Maybe you have an amazing business concept. You don't want to tell anyone because you're afraid they'll copy you. But here's the problem. An idea by itself isn't worth nearly as much as execution. Someone could hear your idea tomorrow, but they still have to build it. They have to find customers. They have to solve problems. They have to improve the product. They have to survive competition. And this is where speed becomes incredibly important. If you have a great idea, don't just sit on it for years trying to make it perfect. Build. Get something into the world. Learn from customers. Improve it. Grow. Because the strongest protection for an idea isn't simply keeping it secret. It's building something that's difficult to catch. If you're constantly improving while someone else is still thinking about copying you, you're already ahead. They aren't copying your company anymore. They're copying an older version of it. And by the time they catch up, you've already moved forward again. But don't grow without direction. However, speed alone isn't enough. You can grow quickly in the wrong direction. That's why you need a clear goal from the beginning. Ask yourself. What am I trying to build? Who am I trying to help? What problem am I solving? What does success actually look like? You don't need every detail figured out. You just need a direction. Then you can work your way toward it. Your original plan might change. Your product might change. Your audience might change. Your strategy might completely change. But your core mission can stay the same. That's the balance. Be stubborn about the destination, but flexible about the road. The real advantage. The biggest businesses aren't necessarily the ones that had the perfect idea first. They're often the ones that learned faster. They saw what was working. They saw what wasn't. They listened to customers. They adapted to changes. And they kept moving. So if you're thinking about starting something, don't wait until you have everything figured out. Start small. Have a clear goal. Build something. Put it in front of people. See what happens. Then learn from it. And change. Because the goal isn't to predict the future perfectly. The goal is to become good enough at adapting that you can succeed even when the future doesn't go according to plan. And remember, you don't need a perfect roadmap. You just need a destination, the courage to start, and the flexibility to change your route along the way.